over 1,300 events this year, which is double last year's. So it's an amazing effort by everybody in this room and beyond. Yeah. But I think this is probably one of the most important events of the week, because it touches on the biggest lever we have to deliver our security and to move the climate on. Of course, we didn't, when as partners we decided to do this event, we were not expecting a heat wave. We really weren't expecting yet another energy crisis. And I think and as Fatih Birol said in this first part of this meeting, it's not the prices have come down. It's that uncertainty is now permanent, and everybody is going to be changing their risk analysis in every country and every business to move forward in this area. And this morning in the same room we had an event we run called the State of Climate Politics, where we had ministers talking about how they were changing their views of relationships, of partnerships of industrial approaches to the new political context and the new energy context. So it really feels like these are two hard of the same coin, but they're coming together around, one solution: stop using volatile fossil fuels, start using good clean energy, and electrify as fast as you can. And we just come out of a really intensive communication and discussion upstairs and a even hotter room between ministers, CEOs, heads of international institutions, of which we have an amazing gathering here today. And you're going to hear, I think you're hearing from every country pretty much at ministerial level at ELCOR this year. We have around 30, and you're nearly getting every single viewpoint we can gather. But the main aim of the conversation, what I hope to hear from people here, is what are the priority steps we need to take? Concrete, moving forward, fine, we've got the agenda, let's move it forward. And I think it really works to look back at the polling that was released last week, and also similar polling at the beginning of this week, on what business says. And it lays down a bit of a challenge. One, it's, yes, 92% say electrification is how we get stability and security for energy. 79% says geopolitics make moving off fossil fuels more urgent, so that's good. But 72% say that governments aren't doing enough to accelerate electrification. And between those numbers lies the challenge we're discussing today, and hope to come out of this with real momentum moving forward. And it is about grids, and it is about policy, it is about moving demand, and it is especially about finance. And we're in the finance capital, green finance capital of the world here, that is not investing enough in this project. And that's something in London we need to sort out, why we are seeing these investments as too risky and not profitable enough, because we aren't doing our share of this project, given the amount of capital which is moved through and stored in the space. So with the destinations of COP31 and the Turkey presidency's announcement that they want to move forward the electrification target, with the Santa Marta conference and the transitioning away from fossil fuels as a process, we have the processes forward, we have the ingredients here. The task now is to sow a roadmap between the 2 points so that we do our work now, and when the time we get to COP and the next stages, we can actually show demonstrable acceleration and progress. I'm so proud of the community that's come together here. I'm so proud that we can host you in London, and London help be part of that thing. Climate action is not just for COP. Remember that. And there's a lot of other climate action weeks. So thank you again. That's your introduction. And I'm going to pass over to Ed Miliband, Secretary of State for DESNZ, for his opening remarks.
Sorry. So some challenges, huge opportunity. I will ask the next speakers, please do speak closer to the microphone. That would be appreciated. The next speaker has shown incredible leadership on energy transition in the UK. The country that started the Industrial Revolution with coal now has no coal power and gets over half its electricity from renewable energy. Please welcome the Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, Honourable Ed Miliband.
It's great to have two introductions, not just one. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, can I start by welcoming you all to the Mansion House and to London Climate Action Week. I want to thank the organisers of London Climate Action Week who've done an amazing job. E3G, the Global Renewables Alliance, and the We Mean Business Coalition, who are all co-hosting this summit with us today. Put your hands together, please, for their incredible organisation to make this happen. There's one other word of thanks I want to say. Secretary General, we are incredibly honoured by your presence with us today. And we are not just honoured by your presence, we are incredibly inspired by the amazing leadership you have shown on climate and energy over the last 9 years. You are a true visionary. You are compelling. And you are our most powerful advocate. So please put your hands together for the Secretary General, everybody. So look, I have 3 or 4 simple messages that I want to say in this opening. My first message is have confidence. Have confidence about this agenda. What I've found so exciting about London Climate Action Week so far is that every country and every business brings their own success story and indeed ambition about what clean power and electrification can offer. Here in the UK today, we've chosen today to announce that we've passed the incredibly significant milestone of over £100 billion of private investment in clean energy since our government came to office less than 2 years ago. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because we had a clear mission. We had a mission which was a partnership with business. We knew this was going to be a massive driver of economic growth. We knew this is where the jobs could come from, jobs in every part, the length and breadth of Britain. And I want to thank all of the UK businesses and indeed international businesses for being our partners in this task. And what we are seeing in Britain is part of a global clean energy boom that the IEA projects will drive a record 2.2 trillion of investment this year. So that's the first point. Have confidence about this mission as a driver of growth and indeed of energy security, as I'll come on to. Because my second message is this. After the war in Iran, less than 5 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, 2 fossil fuel crises in less than 5 years, we in this room, and policymakers more generally, have an incredible duty to learn the right lessons for our countries. In Britain, since the Iran war began, we've seen families, businesses, and the public finances exposed to the impacts of events beyond our borders. Again. And we know it is the most vulnerable across the world who continue to face the greatest impacts, particularly in the global south, where this is not just an energy crisis, but threatens a food security crisis and profound challenges for development. And let's just say this plainly. When Russia invaded Ukraine, some told us to ignore one fossil fuel shock and return to business as usual. And now facing this second shock, just 4 years on, we hear the same arguments. Those who are saying this are wrong. They would leave our countries vulnerable. You know, I often cite this fact that half of the recessions that have happened since the 1970s in the UK have been caused by fossil fuel shocks. But what is different this time with this fossil fuel shock is that clean electrification gives us a clear alternative, an alternative that cannot be disrupted by foreign walls, that isn't subject to global shocks because it is locked in stable prices at home, and that can create good jobs and drive growth. As I said, an alternative that can deliver national security, energy security, and indeed climate security. So we have to learn the right lessons. My third point is this, and I think this shouldn't be controversial. I believe in multilateralism. I believe in global cooperation. I believe every country of the world benefits from that cooperation. And there is a particular reason why this is true in relation to the drive for electrification. Because while the fossil fuel age was defined by the competition for scarce resources, and indeed a zero-sum game, the clean electricity age can be defined by the potential for abundance, because of the resources that we use, and the fact that by working together and supporting each other, we can all benefit. By learning from each other, by building supply chains, and bringing down costs as we deploy renewables, as has happened over the last 2 decades. And as we meet in the City of London, global solidarity, and I want to say this very clearly, means mobilizing the global financial system to get public finance, private finance, the MDBs, philanthropists and others to help drive electrification in the global south. And today we're announcing as a UK government new work with Tanzania, Brazil and Morocco through the Global Clean Power Alliance. My final point is this. We care about future generations. We know that we will be judged on the legacy we leave. And the weather in London this week, believe me, when I was a child, it wasn't 35 degrees in London in June. What we are seeing, not just in Britain, but around the world, impels us to act. But we are not just doing the right thing for future generations. We are in the better lives business today. And this is so important for us to emphasize. We are in the better lives business because we're for energy security, for lower bills, for higher living standards, for good jobs and growth. And what inspires me is all of you. Because in all our countries, there are people who care about this agenda and rely on us to act, and I see them all in this room. Thank you so much.
So the people who say it can't be done should get out of the way of the people who are doing it. Thank you, Secretary of State, for doing it. The next speaker inspires the world with his unrelenting leadership on climate. During his tenure, the world faced not one, but two major energy crises. At moments when many argued for a return to business as usual, he made the case for a better path. Thank you for your leadership, your persistence, and unwavering voice. I was there this morning, Your Excellency, throughout the defining challenges of our time. Please welcome on stage His Excellency, the United Nations Secretary General, António Guterres.
Dear friends, it's an honor to be here among committed climate leaders and activists. This summit takes on urgent tasks at an urgent moment, advancing the energy transition at speed and scale and with justice. And building a new global economy for all, powered by clean, affordable electricity. Earlier today, I spoke about two interconnected crises. Crisis number one, accelerating climate chaos, pushing us beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature limit and towards dangerous, irreversible tipping points. And crisis number two, the most severe energy upheaval in years, pushing up prices, straining economies, and fueling inflation. These two crises share one common cause: fossil fuels. And yet fossil fuels still account for around 80% of global energy use. And 3/4 of people live in countries dependent on imported fossil fuels, energy they do not control at prices they cannot predict. We must turn the page, and we have an historic opportunity to do so through clean electrification powered by renewables. Renewables are now the cheapest, fastest, and most left behind. To supercharge a truly global clean energy transition, we must act on three fronts. First, build 21st century energy systems. Without modern, resilient, and interconnected grids and storage, the transition will stall. Across the world, projects are ready, but stuck waiting to connect to transmission and distribution networks. The International Energy Agency tells us that by 2040, the world will need to add or refurbish more than 80 million kilometers of grids. That is equivalent to rebuilding the entire global grid network. It requires annual global investment in grids and flexibility to reach at least $670 billion by 2030 US dollars, more than 1.5 times current levels. Governments, MDBs, and the private sector must invest in grids and storage, a strategic infrastructure, and strengthen the backbone of a clean energy future. This is how we unlock the full promise of renewables and build energy systems that are clean, secure, and fit for purpose. Second, we must mobilize finance at scale. Developing countries rich in renewable potential are starved from investment. Look no further than Africa, home to 60% of the world's best solar resources, but nearly 600 million people without electricity. And the continent receives just 2% of global clean energy investment. In the last decade, only 1 in every 5 clean energy dollars went to emerging and developing countries outside China. These countries represent 2/3 of the world population. To deliver on global net zero emissions by 2050, annual clean energy investment in those countries must rise more than 5-fold and reach $2 trillion US dollars by 2035. That demands bold national policies and concrete international action to reform the global financial architecture. Credit rating agencies and investors must modernize the way they calculate risk. And we need innovative financial solutions that reduce genuine risk, however, lower the cost of capital and crowd in private investment. And we need to drastically increase the lending capacity of multilateral development banks, making them bigger, bolder, and better able to leverage massive amounts of private finance at reasonable cost. Which brings me to my final point, strengthening international cooperation. And here I'm totally in line with Ed Miliband. We need new models of cooperation that break barriers and accelerate delivery. That cooperation must also extend to trade. Fragmentation and protectionism will only slow progress, deepen inequalities, and prolong dependence on fossil fuels. The clean energy transition will move faster if countries work together to build open, resilient, and diversified supply chains. The transition must deliver for all, creating opportunity, dignity, and sustainable development. We need a boost in support for low-income countries that are struggling to make a shift. The UN will do its part, supporting developing countries to build modern, resilient, and interconnected grids. and the UN Task Force on Critical Energy Transition Minerals is working with resource-rich developing countries to embed justice and equity across the mineral value chains. This must be an opportunity to reject old models of resource exploitation and replace them with high value-added processing and manufacturing in countries endowed with these resources. No more extraction without development. Dear friends, the age of clean electrification is here. The question is whether we can build the grids and storage, mobilize the investment, and deliver the infrastructure at the speed and scale required. Let us seize this moment for energy security, economic stability, and a livable future for all. Thank you for doing your part.
The age of clean electrification powered by renewables. I could not have said it better myself. Now to one of the strongest leaders on the front lines of the climate reality. Some countries talk about independence. Palau is building it. Once powered almost entirely by imported diesel, Palau is now charting a course towards 100% renewable power. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency, the President of Palau, and also the Chair of the Alliance of Small Island States, Sunjel Whips, Jr.
Thank you, Nick. The E3G team, the UK government, and most importantly, for the honor and opportunity to be here before you today. You know, I have to tell you that this London Climate Week, not only is it hot, but it really caught me by surprise. The sheer scale, the vibrant energy, and above all, the profound feeling of optimism in these rooms is infectious. It reminds me that we can get this done, and we must get it done. But if we are being honest, when we look at the world's headlines today, For us in the Pacific, it isn't a headline. It is our daily reality. We are on the absolute front line. Warming seas, ocean acidification, and relentless extreme weather are already eroding our island economies, our food systems, and our cultural identity. The ocean is our lifeblood, and protecting it requires rapid, unapologetic decarbonization of the global economy. At the dead center of that effort is an overhaul of our global energy system. Prime ministers and global leaders are dominant in the news this week. As I reminded an audience earlier this morning, it was your very own former UK Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, who famously said, "One should never let a good crisis go to waste." The recent fossil fuel crisis has laid bare a painful truth. Our continued dependence on carbon-based energy produces a deep, paralyzing vulnerability. Fossil fuels do not deliver the certainty, the stability, the cooperative prosperity, or the planetary balance that we are all striving for. On the contrary, our addiction to them is driving the very crisis that are overwhelming us today. To be absolutely clear, the 1.5 temperature guardrail at the heart of the Paris Agreement is under severe threat. It must be protected, and it must be stretched. It must not be stretched. I said that. As my good friend, the UN Secretary General, reminded us this morning, the transition away from fossil fuels is no longer just necessary, it is irreversible. Technological advancement and the pure hard economics have made it so. But irreversible is not enough if it is too slow. It must be fast enough to keep 1.5 alive. That is why Palau fully supports Brazil's leadership in developing the roadmap on the transition away from fossil fuels, TAF. Alongside the Santa Marta process, which we are proud to welcome to the Pacific next year. For the TAF roadmap to be real, I have called for it to include three indispensable T's. It must have targets, timelines, and trajectories. All of these must be guided by the best science and modeling. We need clear milestones, transparent reporting, and national delivery mechanisms. We need real fossil fuel phase out, not an exercise in creative accounting. At the same time, we must tackle this from the demand side. Accelerated progress on electrification is a powerful weapon in our arsenal, and Palau proudly supports the launch of Electrify Now. We will work hand in hand with our global colleagues to amplify its impact all the way to COP31. Last month in Port Moresby, Pacific energy ministers united around a bold shared vision to achieve 100% renewable energy future for the Blue Pacific. We want to be the first region in the world to do it. And let me tell you why this is just plain common sense. Let's look at the math. It makes absolutely no sense that a region like the Blue Pacific, which could largely decarbonize its entire energy architecture with 20 to 40 billion in total investment, spend now 6 to 9 billion every single year on imported fossil fuels. At the current crisis, that bill could easily exceed 10 billion. We are talking about a full investment payback in just 3 years. Imagine that. After 3 years, all future diesel purchasing can be reoriented where it belongs, in education, in healthcare, in new clean industries, and creating sustainable jobs for our people. Embracing this new energy future is critical to achieving national security, reducing vulnerability to external shocks, and advancing development. And honestly, the words apply equally to just about every region and country represented in this room today. For us, 100% renewable energy is not a slick marketing slogan. It is the beating heart of our economic strategy. This September, Palau will host the 55th Pacific Island Forum Leaders Meeting. And I'm hoping the UN Secretary General will join us there to advance initiatives that I know are close to his heart. We want to welcome you at our Leaders Ascent dialogue on climate smart investment. This will be the starter's gun on a critical series of stepping stones running from Palau to the pre-COP in Fiji and Tuvalu and straight on to COP31. At this dialogue, we aren't just going to talk, we are going to deliver. We will launch the Pacific Renewable Energy Investment Perspective.